A billionaire CEO spotted his former employee standing in the rain, selling fruit on a broken roadside stall, still smiling, still kind, still helping his little daughter arrange oranges under a leaking umbrella. What he discovered next didn't just shock him. It changed both of their lives forever. Because 5 years earlier, that same man had sacrificed everything to help build the billionaire's dream. And now, he was barely surviving. What the billionaire did the next morning stunned his board of directors, his investors, and even the city itself. Success has a way of making people forget. But Daniel Sterling never thought he would be one of those people. 5 years ago, Daniel wasn't a household name. He didn't grace the covers of magazines or speak at global tech conferences. He was just a driven young entrepreneur with tired eyes, cheap coffee, and a vision no one fully understood. Today, he was the CEO of Sterling Innovations, one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the country. Business journals compared his bold leadership to figures like Elon Musk. Investors praised his risk-taking. Employees admired his sharp instincts. His calendar was booked 6 months in advance. His mornings began at 5:00 a.m. with market briefings. By 6:00, he was in a private gym overlooking the skyline. By 7:30, his chauffeur-driven car carried him through glass towers toward a corner office lined with awards and framed headlines. But for all the success, there were days when Daniel felt a quiet ache he couldn't explain. Because long before the luxury cars and global expansions, there had been a cramped office with flickering fluorescent lights. A folding table served as a conference desk. The team consisted of 3 people, including Daniel, and one of them had been Marcus Hale. Marcus wasn't flashy. He didn't have a prestigious MBA or wealthy connections. What he had was something rarer: loyalty. He was the first to arrive each morning, unlocking the office before Daniel even parked his beat-up sedan. He brewed the coffee, organized paperwork, called suppliers, calmed frustrated clients. When Sterling Innovations nearly collapsed in its second year, when investors pulled out and payroll was uncertain, Marcus didn't walk away. He worked unpaid overtime. He skipped meals. He told Daniel, "If you believe in this, I believe in it." But belief doesn't always survive corporate restructuring. When emergency investors finally stepped in, they demanded immediate cuts, departments eliminated, roles restructured, costs slashed. Daniel fought to protect as many people as he could. But Marcus's position was one of the first to go. Daniel remembered that day with painful clarity. Marcus stood in that tiny office holding a thin envelope. He didn't argue, he didn't plead. He simply extended his hand. "I believe in you," Marcus had said. "Make it count." Daniel had promised he'd bring him back once the company stabilized. But success came faster than stability. Expansion into 3 countries, back-to-back funding rounds, media interviews, product launches. Time blurred. And somewhere in that blur, Marcus disappeared from Daniel's world. 5 years later, rain tapped softly against the tinted windows of Daniel's black luxury sedan as it rolled through a part of town he rarely visited anymore. He had just left a high-level investor dinner. His security detail sat in the front. His phone buzzed with emails he barely skimmed. At a red light, he leaned back, momentarily distracted. Then he glanced outside and froze. Across the street, under a crooked umbrella patched with duct tape, stood a small wooden fruit stall. Oranges and bananas were stacked neatly despite the pouring rain. Behind it stood a man Daniel would have recognized anywhere. Older now, thinner, his shoulders slightly bent from years of weight life had placed on him. Marcus. He was carefully helping a little girl, maybe 7 years old, arrange oranges into neat pyramids. The girl giggled as rainwater splashed her shoes. Marcus wiped her face gently with his sleeve. Even in the rain. He was smiling. Daniel's chest tightened. "Pull over," he said suddenly. "Sir?" the driver asked. "Now." The car eased to the curb. Security protested as Daniel stepped out into the downpour without an umbrella. Rain soaked his tailored coat instantly. Marcus looked up, confused at first, then stunned. Their eyes locked. "Mr. Sterling," Marcus said quietly. 5 years of silence hung between them. And in that suspended moment, Daniel realized something that made his stomach twist. While he had risen higher than he ever imagined, the man who helped him rise had fallen into the rain. Daniel walked closer, heart pounding in a way it hadn't during any boardroom negotiation. The little girl peeked shyly from behind Marcus. "Daddy, who is that?" she whispered. "Daddy." Daniel hadn't known Marcus had a child. Marcus straightened himself, dignity intact despite soaked clothes and worn shoes. "This," Marcus said gently, "is someone I used to work with." Used to work with. Not someone who let him go. Not someone who forgot. Just someone he once believed in. Daniel swallowed hard. And in that instant, he knew the rain wasn't the only thing falling that night. Before we continue with this incredible journey, I spent countless hours researching and crafting this story to bring you something truly meaningful. If stories like this touch your heart, and you want to see more acts of kindness that restore faith in humanity, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. It truly means the world to me and helps these powerful stories reach others who need to hear them. Now, let's see what happens next. Have you ever witnessed an act of kindness that completely changed your perspective? Share your story in the comments below. I'd love to read it. Rain poured harder, drumming against the metal roofs of nearby shops. Daniel Sterling stood in a $4,000 tailored coat, completely soaked. Marcus Hale stood behind a wooden fruit stall with a leaking umbrella and worn-out sneakers. For a moment, neither man knew what to say. 5 years. 5 silent years. Marcus recovered first. He gave the same small, respectful nod Daniel remembered from the early startup days. "Good evening, Mr. Sterling." Not Daniel. Not "Hey, it's been a while." Still Mr. Sterling. That formality stung more than the rain. "Marcus," Daniel stepped closer. "It's just Daniel." Marcus smiled politely, but didn't correct himself. The little girl peeked from behind her father again, wide, curious eyes studying the stranger in expensive clothes, standing in the rain like he didn't belong there. "This is my daughter, Lily," Marcus said softly. "Lily, say hello." "Hi," she whispered. Daniel knelt slightly so he was at her eye level. "Hi, Lily." He noticed her shoes were damp, her jacket slightly too thin for the weather, but her eyes bright, curious, unafraid. Just like her father used to be. Daniel looked back at Marcus. "I've been trying to reach you," Daniel said, and immediately knew it sounded hollow. Marcus didn't challenge him. "It's all right," he replied gently. "Life gets busy." There was no accusation. No bitterness. That hurt more. Daniel glanced at the fruit stand. The oranges were arranged with surprising precision, the bananas stacked evenly. Even the handwritten sign was neat and professional. "You always were organized," Daniel said quietly. Marcus chuckled. "Old habits." The rain dripped through a small tear in the umbrella, landing directly on Marcus's shoulder. He didn't move. "Daddy won't let the fruit get messy," Lily said proudly. "He says presentation matters." Daniel felt his chest tighten. That was something he used to say during investor pitches. Presentation matters. Marcus remembered. Even here. Even now. "Can we talk?" Daniel asked. Marcus hesitated, glancing at Lily. She was busy rearranging oranges, humming softly. "We close in about 20 minutes, Marcus said. "I'll wait." Daniel ignored the looks from his security detail, parked a few feet away. For 20 minutes, he stood there in the rain, watching Marcus interact with customers. And what he saw unsettled him. Marcus greeted every person warmly. When an elderly woman came up short on change, Marcus quietly waved it off. "It's fine, Mrs. Carter, just bring it next time." When a teenage boy tried to rush off without paying fully, Marcus gently stopped him, not angrily, but firmly, teaching him responsibility without humiliation. He wasn't just selling fruit. He was serving people. Even now. Even when he had so little. When the stall finally closed, Marcus handed Lily a small towel from a plastic bag. "Go sit in the car, sweetheart." "Car?" Daniel glanced behind the stall. There wasn't one. Just a small second-hand bicycle with a child seat attached. Marcus caught the glance. "We live 3 blocks away," he said calmly. Daniel swallowed. They walked under the dim streetlight, rain easing slightly. That's when Marcus told him everything. After losing his job, he tried to find stable work, but the tech world had moved fast. His skills were practical, not flashy. Interviews turned into rejections. Then his wife got sick. Aggressive illness, rapid decline. Medical bills stacked up. Insurance barely covered anything. Marcus sold their car, then their furniture, then most of their savings. 2 years later, she was gone. Daniel felt the world narrow. "I didn't know," he whispered. Marcus nodded. "I didn't want to bother you." Bother him. The man who once worked unpaid overtime to keep his company alive didn't want to bother him. Daniel looked away, ashamed. "And this," Daniel gestured to the stall. "It's flexible," Marcus said. "Lets me take Lily to school, pick her up, be there." There was no self-pity in his voice. Just practicality. And love. Daniel made a decision right there under that flickering streetlight. "Let me help," he said. Marcus's expression shifted immediately. Not pride. Not ego. Fear. "Daniel, I don't want charity." "It's not charity." "It feels like it." The rain started again, softer now. Daniel chose his next words carefully. "You once told me to make it count," Daniel said. "You helped build my dream. I haven't counted that properly." Marcus looked down at his hands. "You don't owe me anything." "I owe you more than you think." Silence stretched between them. Finally, Daniel reached into his coat, not for money. For a business card. "I'm not offering you a handout," he said. "I'm offering dinner tomorrow night. You and Lily, let's talk properly." Marcus studied the card. He hesitated. Lily tugged his sleeve. "Daddy, is he your boss?" Marcus smiled faintly. "He used to be." Daniel corrected gently. "He used to be my right hand." That landed. Marcus's jaw tightened slightly, emotions flickering across his face. "Dinner," Daniel repeated. "No pressure, no expectations." After a long pause, Marcus nodded. "All right." Before leaving, Daniel did something subtle. He walked back to the fruit stall. "How much for everything?" he asked. Marcus frowned. "Everything." "All of it." Marcus hesitated again. Daniel added softly, "For tomorrow's dinner dessert." It was a transparent excuse, but it preserved dignity. Marcus slowly calculated the total. Daniel paid double. Marcus noticed. He didn't comment. Instead, he extended his hand, firm and steady. "Thank you. Not for the money. For the respect. For asking instead of assuming. For seeing him." As Daniel stepped back into his car, he looked through the rain-streaked window one last time. Marcus lifted Lily onto the bicycle seat. She wrapped her tiny arms around him. They rode off together under the streetlights. Daniel sat back, heart heavier than it had been in years, because he realized something undeniable. The man standing in the rain had lost almost everything, but he hadn't lost his character. And Daniel, he had gained everything, but somewhere along the way, he had lost perspective. Tomorrow wouldn't just be dinner. It would be reckoning. What would you do if you discovered someone with incredible loyalty and strength living in such difficult circumstances? Would you offer help? Would you hesitate? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. The next evening, Marcus stood outside a downtown restaurant he had only ever seen from a distance. Its glass exterior reflected the city lights like a polished mirror. Valets in pressed uniforms moved with efficiency. The scent of expensive cologne and rain-washed pavement filled the air. Marcus adjusted his only blazer, slightly worn at the elbows but carefully ironed. Beside him, Lily held his hand, her hair neatly braided, her smile nervous but excited. "Daddy, are we allowed in there?" she whispered. Marcus crouched to her level. "We belong anywhere we walk with respect," he said gently. Daniel had reserved a private room, not to impress them, but to protect Marcus from curious stares and unnecessary attention. When Daniel saw them walk in, something shifted inside him. Marcus still carried himself with quiet dignity. Lily clung to his side, wide-eyed but brave. "Marcus," Daniel said warmly, stepping forward. "Lily, you both look wonderful." Lily beamed. Marcus nodded. "Thank you for inviting us." They sat. At first, conversation was cautious. Safe topics: school, weather, the fruit stall. But as the evening unfolded, something familiar began to reappear. Marcus's mind. When Daniel casually mentioned a new logistics issue Sterling Innovations was facing in one of their international warehouses, Marcus leaned forward instinctively. "Have you tried decentralizing fulfillment?" Marcus asked. "Smaller regional hubs reduce risk concentration." Daniel blinked. That was sharp. "We considered it," Daniel admitted, "but cost projections were high." "Short-term," Marcus replied calmly, "but long-term savings on delays and retention could offset it." The room fell quiet. Daniel felt something he hadn't expected. Not pity. Not guilt. Recognition. Marcus hadn't lost his instincts. He had simply lost opportunity. Lily tugged Marcus's sleeve. "Daddy's really smart," she said proudly. Daniel smiled. "I know." And for the first time that evening, Marcus allowed himself a small, genuine grin. That dinner turned into weekly meetings. Not formal ones. Coffee conversations. Daniel started stopping by the fruit stall occasionally, this time without the expensive car drawing attention, sometimes alone. He would sit on an overturned crate while Marcus worked. They talked business, life, fatherhood. Daniel learned Lily loved math and drawing. He learned Marcus helped neighborhood kids with homework after closing the stall. Free of charge. "Why?" Daniel once asked. Marcus shrugged. "Because someone should." That answer lingered with Daniel long after he drove away. Slowly, something unexpected began to happen. Daniel started listening again. Not as a CEO. As a man. And Marcus. He started speaking again. Not as someone left behind, but as someone still capable. Not everyone understood. When Daniel's board caught wind that he was frequently visiting that neighborhood, concerns surfaced. "It's a security risk," One executive warned. It's distracting you from expansion, another added. Daniel dismissed them at first. Until one morning during a strategy meeting, a board member said bluntly, rehiring former low-level staff out of sentiment sets a dangerous precedent. The room went quiet. Daniel didn't respond immediately. Because here was the truth. He wasn't sure what he was planning yet. He only knew he couldn't walk away again. Meanwhile, in Marcus's neighborhood, whispers spread too. Why is that billionaire always here? Be careful, rich people don't do anything for free. Marcus heard it all. Doubt began creeping in. Late at night, after Lily slept, he would sit at their small kitchen table staring at Daniel's business card. Hope is dangerous when you've been disappointed before. Then came the complication. One rainy afternoon, Marcus received notice from the city. The fruit stall permit he operated under was being revoked due to zoning adjustments. 30 days to vacate. 30 days until their only income vanished. Marcus folded the letter slowly. He didn't call Daniel. He didn't ask for help. He simply began researching alternatives. But alternatives required capital. And capital required stability. Neither of which he had. When Daniel stopped by that evening and noticed Marcus quieter than usual, he pressed gently. What's wrong? Nothing I can't handle. Marcus. Silence. Finally, Marcus handed him the notice. Daniel read it twice. His jaw tightened. This is unfair. It's legal, Marcus corrected softly. Daniel's billionaire instincts activated immediately. Lawyers. Connections. Influence. I'll fix it, Daniel said. Marcus shook his head sharply. No. Daniel frowned. Why not? Because I don't want Lily growing up thinking we survive, because someone powerful bends rules for us. That hit hard. Marcus continued, voice steady. If you help me, it has to be something I earn, not something you rescue. The tension between them thickened. Daniel wasn't used to being told no. Investors rarely pushed back this way. But Marcus wasn't an investor. He was a man guarding his dignity. For a moment, doubt flickered in Daniel's mind. Was he overstepping? Was this about helping Marcus? Or easing his own guilt? That question unsettled him deeply. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He walked through his penthouse, overlooking the glittering skyline. 5 years ago, Marcus had believed in him without contracts or guarantees. Now Marcus was facing collapse again. And still refusing charity. Daniel realized something crucial. Marcus didn't need saving. He needed opportunity. A platform equal to his capability. The next morning, Daniel called an emergency board meeting. Not to rehire Marcus. Not yet. But to propose something radical. A new division within Sterling Innovations. Community outreach and employee resilience. A department dedicated to supporting struggling families, former employees, and small local businesses. The board resisted immediately. It's not profitable. It's not strategic. It's emotional. Daniel listened. Then he spoke calmly. 5 years ago, this company survived because people sacrificed beyond their job descriptions. If we forget that, we don't deserve our growth. Silence filled the room. This isn't charity, Daniel continued. It's investment in loyalty, in humanity, in long-term culture. The vote was split. Barely. But it passed. Now came the hardest part. Convincing Marcus. That evening, Daniel walked back to the fruit stall, knowing it might not exist in a month. Marcus looked up as he approached. I've been thinking, Daniel began. Marcus raised an eyebrow cautiously. Daniel took a slow breath. I don't want to rescue you. Marcus said nothing. I want to build something with you. The rain began again. Not heavy, not dramatic, just steady. Like time, like opportunity. Marcus studied Daniel's face carefully, searching for ego, for pity, for hidden obligation. Instead, he saw respect. But trust, once fractured by life, doesn't rebuild instantly. And as thunder rumbled faintly in the distance, Marcus asked the question that would determine everything. What exactly are you offering? The rain that night felt different. Not cold, not heavy, but cleansing. Marcus stood behind his fruit stall, soon to disappear, staring at Daniel with guarded eyes. What exactly are you offering? He asked. Daniel didn't rush the answer. I'm creating a new division at Sterling Innovations, he said steadily. Community outreach and employee resilience. It won't be a publicity stunt. It won't be charity. Marcus crossed his arms. And my role? Daniel stepped closer. I want you to lead it. The words hung in the air. Traffic moved behind them. Water dripped from the torn umbrella. Marcus blinked once. You want me to run a division in a multi-million-dollar company? Yes. I sell fruit on the side of the road. You manage people with integrity, Daniel replied. You solve operational problems instinctively. You build trust. That's leadership. Marcus shook his head slightly. You have executives with degrees for that. And none of them understand sacrifice the way you do. Silence. Then Marcus said the only thing that truly mattered. What about Lily? Daniel didn't hesitate. Full health care, education support, flexible structure so you're present in her life. Marcus looked away, overwhelmed. 5 years ago, he had let go of a dream so the company could survive. Now the dream was reaching back. But fear lingered. What if I fail? Marcus asked quietly. Daniel's voice softened. You didn't fail when we were collapsing. You stayed. That's success. The transition wasn't easy. The board demanded proof. Some executives questioned Marcus openly. One senior manager muttered during a strategy session, "Is this emotional hearing?" Marcus heard it. And instead of shrinking, he leaned forward. Let's review the numbers, he said calmly, presenting a community engagement pilot model he had drafted over late nights at his kitchen table. It was detailed, data-backed, practical. Within 3 months, the new division launched 3 initiatives. Emergency medical grants for employees, microloans for small neighborhood businesses, scholarship, funding for children of laid-off workers. Marcus insisted on one policy above all. No one who gave their best to this company should ever feel invisible. That line became the division's unofficial motto. Meanwhile, the zoning issue closed the fruit stall permanently. On the final day, Marcus and Lily packed the remaining crates. Lily looked sad. I'm going to miss it, she said. Marcus knelt beside her. This place helped us survive, he said gently. Now we're going to help others survive too. Daniel showed up that evening, not as CEO. Just as Daniel. They took one last photo in front of the stall. Rain clouds hovered again. But this time no one felt cold. 6 months later, Sterling Innovations hosted its annual shareholder conference. Normally, Daniel gave the keynote alone. This time, he stepped aside halfway through. I'd like you to meet someone who helped build this company before most of you invested in it, Daniel said. Marcus walked onto the stage. The same man who once stood in the rain. But now, tailored suit, confident posture restored, eyes steady. He spoke not about profit margins, but about people. He shared the story of an employee who received emergency surgery funding, a single mother who used a microloan to start a catering business, a former warehouse worker whose daughter earned a scholarship. The audience grew quiet, not because of numbers, because of impact. At the end of the presentation, applause rose slowly, then fully, then standing. Daniel didn't clap at first. He simply watched. Because this was the return on investment he had been missing. But the real transformation wasn't on stage. It happened on a quiet Monday morning. Lily stood in front of her new school, a place Marcus once thought impossible. Backpack on, shoes dry, uniform crisp. She looked up at her father. "Daddy, do you think Mommy would be proud?" Marcus swallowed emotion. "I know she would." Daniel stood a few feet away, giving them space. Lily ran toward the entrance, then suddenly turned and ran back, hugging Marcus tightly. Then, unexpectedly, she hugged Daniel too. "Thank you for helping my dad," she whispered. Daniel felt his throat tighten. "No," he said softly, "he helped me first." 1 year later, another rainy evening. Daniel's car slowed at a red light in that same neighborhood. But this time, something was different. The old fruit stall space had transformed. In its place stood a small community resource center funded by Sterling Innovations. Inside, Marcus was leading a workshop for struggling small business owners, teaching budgeting, inventory management, resilience. Outside, under a new solid awning, a young vendor arranged fruit carefully. Marcus stepped out, adjusted the display slightly, and smiled. "Presentation matters," he told the vendor gently. Daniel watched through the window. 5 years ago, he had risen, but he had forgotten to look back. Now, he wasn't just rising. He was lifting. The light turned green, but Daniel didn't move immediately. He watched Marcus laughing with Lily, who was helping younger kids with homework at a small table inside the center. Survival had become stability. Stability had become purpose. And purpose had become impact. That night, Daniel stood on his penthouse balcony again. Same skyline, same city. But he felt different. Because success, he realized, isn't measured by how high you climb. It's measured by who you refuse to leave behind. And somewhere in a neighborhood once forgotten by investors, a former employee was creating ripple effects of hope. Not because he was rescued, but because he was remembered. 2 years after that rainy night, Sterling Innovations is no longer known only for its rapid growth or groundbreaking technology. It's known for its culture. The community outreach and employee resilience division Marcus built has become one of the company's most defining features. What began as a small internal initiative is now a national model studied by other corporations. Over 300 families have received emergency medical assistance. Dozens of small businesses, from bakeries to repair shops, have been launched through microloans. Scholarships have helped children step into classrooms their parents once thought were out of reach. And the most remarkable part, employee retention at Sterling Innovations has reached an all-time high. Because when people know they matter, they give their best. Marcus no longer rides a bicycle home in the rain, but he still visits that neighborhood weekly. He still knows vendors by name. He still buys fruit from the young man who took over his old spot. Except now he leaves behind business advice, not because he has to, but because he remembers. Lily is thriving in school. She recently won a mathematics award and insists she wants to run a company that helps people like Daddy does. Sometimes she visits the office after school. Employees smile when she walks through the halls. She's a reminder that behind every corporate decision, there are families. And Daniel, he changed too. He still leads board meetings, still signs global deals. But he asks different questions now. Not just what's the profit, but who does this impact? He created a permanent policy, ensuring that no employee facing hardship goes unheard. And once a year, on the anniversary of that rainy night, Daniel visits the community center quietly. No cameras, no press releases, just gratitude. Because that night didn't just change Marcus's life. It corrected Daniel's perspective. We live in a world that celebrates success loudly. The promotions, the headlines, the wealth, but sometimes the most powerful moments happen quietly. At a red light, in the rain, when someone chooses to step out of comfort and step into compassion. Marcus never blamed Daniel. Daniel never truly forgot Marcus. But it took awareness and courage to close the distance between them. And here's the truth. Most of us will never run billion-dollar companies. But every single one of us will cross paths with someone who once helped us, someone struggling silently, someone standing in their own version of the rain. The question is simple. Will we look away? Or will we pull over? Because success isn't just about rising. It's about remembering. Kindness isn't weakness. It's legacy. And sometimes, the greatest investment you'll ever make isn't in a company. It's in a person. Stories like this remind us that extraordinary kindness exists all around us. If this touched your heart, please like this video. It helps more people discover these inspiring stories. Subscribe for more true-to-life tales of human kindness that restore faith in humanity. And most importantly, look for opportunities in your own life to be someone's unexpected blessing. What act of kindness will you perform this week? Will you check on an old friend? Support a struggling parent? Mentor someone who reminds you of your younger self? Tell me in the comments below. Your commitment might inspire someone else to act. Thank you for watching. And remember, you have the power to change someone's entire world. Sometimes, all it takes is pulling over in the rain.